Have you ever noticed that when you go somewhere new, you give yourself permission to be just a little bit clueless? You expect not to know. You ask questions. You notice things. You're willing to be surprised. Well, we are spending the summer in Finland, and it has reminded us that having a beginner mindset is a major advantage. And we want to share what we've learned with you.
Welcome to What Could Go Right, a podcast about living boldly on and off the water. I'm Eric Orton.
I'm Emily Orton. On this podcast, we explore adventure, connection, and stepping into a more intentional life. And we don't just talk about it. We invite you to join us on guided sailing trips around the world.
And if you stick around to the end, you'll hear our sailing update where we share where we're going, when, and which trips still have space. And you'll hear a sailing takeaway from somebody who's already come on a trip with us. In 2014, we bootstrapped a year on a fixer-upper sailboat with our 5 kids. We wrote a book about it called 7 at Sea, and that became a New York Times top 10 travel book.
Let's dive in.
Can I start by saying that we recorded this episode once earlier when we first got here, and then apparently there was an audio glitch. We're re-recording this a month and a half in.
Okay, well, first of all, I just think it's important to explain why are we in Finland for the summer? And of course, there's every good reason to come to Finland, but we're here specifically because we run a small travel company, a sailing business where we curate trips for people who want to learn how to sail, all the fun of learning how to sail with none of the pressure of a class and all the fun of a vacation.
Yeah.
We go on vacation in different places, and during the vacation, you learn how to sail. And in the summer months, tell us our locations.
So in the summer months, we're mostly in Europe. So we've already been to 2 different parts of Greece. I just got back from Croatia yesterday, and then we're going to go to Norway and Italy. So all the trips are on this side of the world. And it makes sense for us to be here because less jet lag. We can show up better for the trips. And anyway, it's a beautiful country.
And you might ask, well, why not just stay in Italy or Greece or Croatia? And it's because we actually have family in Finland, and it's really nice to get to spend the summer here with them and connect in that way. So we're in the same or close to the same time zones as all of the trips that we're doing, but we haven't done this before. This is our first time coming to spend a whole summer in Finland as a family. And actually, Eric came, his mom's Finnish, and you used to come here when you were a kid. So what were some of your expectations when we came? This is the first part of like the beginner mindset. You might have some expectations.
Well, I think going back real quick, my mother was born and raised here. We're in a town that's about an hour north of Helsinki. And this is where I would come as a kid, and we would visit my grandmother and my grandfather and my uncles. And anyway, lots of time has passed, and my grandmother has passed, and my mom got her apartment, and it's here available to us. So we're staying. It's a great place to reconnect with family. And I have a lot of expectations because I came here as a kid, and as a kid, we would walk down the hill to the lake and swim every day. And we would be outside in the forests and the trees and the rocks. There's so many forests here. And
like playing on boulders is one of the stories that I've heard from your siblings.
Yeah. And it's just quiet and peaceful, which I like. And when I was younger, I would come here, and I didn't speak a lot of Finnish then. I don't speak a lot now. I speak more, but I never really had direct conversations with my grandparents because they did not speak English, and my mom would translate, but only so much. Now, so many of the younger generation and even older generations speak English kind of as the world has come together out of necessity. English is just sort of a base second language for everybody. And so we're able to get by. My expectation was, we're going to be able to get by pretty easily. And we have been. I mean, what I did not expect was to really enjoy learning the language. And we dedicate a little block of time each day to learning the Finnish language. And there's lots of opportunities to practice it. And we're able to largely live our lives functioning in English. But the more and more I learn Finnish, the easier and the more fun it is to be here.
Yeah, we understand what's going on around us. We can get the gist of the signs or understand enough of the conversation to know the topic. There are so many ways to learn Finnish now. So that's really exciting for us to be able to be here and engaging in that way. But not all of the things are the same as they were when you were a kid. And it can be hard to let go of things that have changed. We just were talking about that this morning. This city has changed a lot since I was 14.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about it?
I mean, I think that there is one thing that has changed is the trees from the view out of my grandmother's and now my mother's apartment, you used to be able to see the lake. Now the trees have grown tall enough that you can't see the lake. It's still there. We still go and enjoy it, but that's one of the things that has changed. I think there's a lot more racial diversity here than when I was younger. There's been a lot more immigration. There's more graffiti.
Really have some pretty good
Look,
artists
I
out
love
there.
street art. I love street art. Shout out Banksy.
Technology has changed, and so there are computerized kiosks and Bolt.
Bolt is like
Cars
Uber for Europe.
Cars you can call from your phone. And we got here and suddenly learned, oh, you have to download this app if you want to park in town, and you have to download this app if you want to park at the airport. We're like, oh, I need all the apps. So that was one of our initial learnings. So it is something of what you were expecting. And I've come here once before, 8 years ago, for a very short visit. But now we're staying here, doing our everyday life here. And it feels very different than just popping by. We got to figure out how to get our groceries and how to get around town and all of those things. And we have really had our eyes and ears open because it's largely new. A lot of buildings have been built that weren't here before. The bus routes have changed, things are different. And so we feel like we're new here. And that's what we like to call the beginner mindset or the rookie advantage or the curiosity advantage is just when you are new, that means you don't really know what's going on. When you're experienced, maybe you're listening to this while you're driving your car. You can listen to this and drive your car at the same time because you aren't wondering when to push down the pedal or how to adjust your mirrors. That part is all dialed in and you don't even have to notice it. When you're new, you're noticing everything. You're curious, and that means you are paying attention. And so it's super fun whenever we arrive somewhere new, and we did it here as well. The first day, we just take lots of pictures because after that, your mind starts recognizing things as familiar. So that's one of the advantages. I wanted to just ask or talk about what are some things that, since we're new and we're paying attention, feel like, oh, I've discovered this, or I've been delighted by this, or surprised by this.
Well, one thing that I know about being in a country or a place for the first time is that it makes you feel like a child. It makes me feel like a child. My uncle and aunt took us to the grocery store our first day just so we could have a few things in the house. And just trying to buy a few basic groceries feels like a challenge.
I have no idea what kind of cheese this is.
Like, I don't know, am I about to buy am I about to buy buttermilk or am I buying whole milk? Because you don't want to mix those up.
Yeah.
And, but you can't read the package. And, and like we want to get bread, but we want to get a kind of bread that we'll like. And, just picking out a few basic items and then going to the cash register. And I think honestly, the first day we went there and, paid with our card. And this girl was like at the cash register, like she didn't know what to do because something popped up that she'd never seen, which is I think we had to sign because it was our credit card. And anyway, since then we've had no trouble, but we're like, oh great, is our credit card not going to work or something here?
Are we not going to be able to eat? I think in Europe, a lot of credit cards come with a special PIN code and ours don't. So she just kind of looked at us and we looked at her and we didn't know if we were going home with that food or not.
And so, yeah, little things like just paying for groceries or...
I know when we went to that grocery order, I thought, I know, because I've been to Germany before. In Europe, the condiments are in metal tubes, kind of like a toothpaste tube. So I saw these yellow ones and I knew that they were mustard because I've seen your mom import those from her visits to Finland and I've had that mustard before. So I saw these red ones and I assumed these must be ketchup. So I pulled it out and like feeling kind of proud of myself, like, oh, I've deduced from the markings on this package that this and the location that this is ketchup. And your uncle, he said, that's ham pate. I was like, oh, I would be very surprised if I opened it up.
Put a little ham pate on your French fries.
Could still go on a sandwich, but I was so surprised, first of all, because that's not a food item I've ever heard of or used. Second of all,
let's keep it that way.
I just thought it was going to be ketchup.
So yeah, I think that, buying a few groceries, you go to the train station and can't read any of the words. And so you don't know, I was on a website today because we're going to this music festival next week and it's all in Finnish. And I'm just like, I don't even know where to find out where. I know the town where it's happening, but I don't even know how to look for the address unless I want to translate the whole website, which I actually did. I just clicked over into English and thank you, Google.
Or the Google.
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 Is that how they say it? Google. Okay.
Google.
So I guess there's a childlike feeling to it because like little children, we have our grandchildren now who are just learning to walk, just learning to speak. We don't know what people are saying when they speak to us in Finnish. We can't read the signs. We have to have our little Google Translate device that like bails us out every time. And it's very humbling to realize that, things that we are very skilled at in our own language and in our own environment, we are complete beginners here. And so everything slows down. Everything takes more time. Just getting through the basics of a day and a week require more energy, more attention, and thus a little bit more sleep and naps because it takes more energy. And I think that's why kids nap so much. But as we've been here throughout the summer, I feel like we got the grocery store dialed in. We know how to use self-checkout now.
Oh my gosh.
I've taken the train to the Helsinki airport a couple times. And, we know how to call a cab. We know how to use the buses. All those things were new and a little bit scary the first time because we didn't get a car. We haven't gotten a car. We don't plan to get a car. And so we've had to learn a lot of modes of transportation. And fortunately, we have these amazing tools, apps and maps and things like that. But yeah, we're much more in our groove, when we're recording this now than we were when we first arrived.
When we first recorded this episode. But some of the things that have delighted me were swimming in a cold lake. I do not like to be cold, and I was afraid of deep water until I was 35. You can read that story in our book, 7 at Sea. But now I'm into it, and I didn't think that I would want to go in a cold lake. And I thought that was just for very hardy Finnish people who had somehow were genetically different than me and didn't mind the cold.
Some nerve endings snipped in their brain.
I don't know, but we went and I was pretty nervous and we got over that threshold initially. And it turns out that I actually loved it. It's completely surprised and delighted me to find how much fun it is to leave the apartment, walk through a forest path, have it open up into a little sandy beach, with families or whoever, and then just climb down the ladder on the dock and go for a swim. Any day that I choose, no membership required, no chlorine, no mandatory breaks every hour, and
no lifeguards blowing their whistle.
No lifeguards. And I get to see everyone else who's also out there swimming, and it's so delightful. And you come out regularly, then people start saying hello to you, and that's been one of the things that really delighted me. And I'll share one other thing that probably had like an outsized amount of joy that came along with it for me, which was picking blueberries.
Yeah.
I have never picked a blueberry. That might not be your thing. That sounds like, oh, wow, I just went foraging. But we were invited to the family's house and they said, we're going to make this blueberry pie. And we're going to pick blueberries. And I got so excited because this is definitely on my bucket list. And I didn't know where we were going to go, if we were going to drive somewhere. And they just walked like 100 feet outside their front door. And
here's a bucket for everybody. Let's start filling with blueberries.
Yeah. And then we looked around and these little bushes, little tiny leaves that are basically everywhere that we've ever been since we got to Finland. Underneath are these little what look like shadows if you're not paying attention. And when my eyes were trained to spot it, then I learned, oh, those are blueberries. And I just got right down in the blueberries and we picked the blueberries. And now I can notice them everywhere. And maybe that could be a metaphor as well. Once my eyes were trained to recognize blueberries, I was suddenly like, blueberries everywhere.
You were a blueberryist.
That's right. And that was super delightful. And I got her recipe. And I feel like I've come full circle because since then, I found the blueberries in my own neighborhood, went out and got my own blueberries, made her recipe, a whole saga about like multiple weeks that it's taken us to figure out how to use the oven here, and actually baked the blueberry.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Like for us, because my mom redid this apartment and we haven't been here in a few years, but we had just learning how to use the dishwasher.
Mm-hmm.
Was a little bit of a quest.
It came with like written instructions, which helped.
But the oven, my mom never even figured out her own oven. It's a convection oven. So a microwave that doubles as an oven. And she never learned how to use it. And so we're just trying to figure it out. And we learned how to use it yesterday. It took us a few days to figure out the microwave portion, but the convection oven part, finally cracked the code. The instructions were just not that helpful. But anyway, to feel like, oh, now, like halfway through the summer, we know how to use all the appliances.
And it feels like such a win. And I don't know if it is how people feel when they play video games like Candy Crush or whatever, but I'm out there picking blueberries and a blueberry, a blueberry, a blueberry. Every single time it feels like I win.
It's a little dopamine hit.
Little dopamine hit. And the same when we figured out this stuff. And I remember Eric was sailing in Greece with a group when I called to let him know that I had finally cracked the code on self-checkout.
At the grocery store.
At the grocery store. If I use, it's my same credit card, but I use it through Apple Pay, then their system doesn't require me to have a signature, so I don't have to have an attendant with me. But the first time I thought, I figured this out. Let me go through self-checkout. Then there's stuff came on the screen that I didn't know. It was a surprise. It wasn't in English, even though I had tapped English. And I just stood there. The guy next to me was talking to me in Finnish. I didn't know what he was saying. And an attendant had to come over and was telling me stuff that I did wrong. And I'm just standing there like, I do not know what is happening. And then you also have to keep the receipt to use a barcode or you're trapped. Yeah, there's like
a gate
that won't let you out of the grocery store unless you tap your receipt.
And the first time I did self-checkout, I didn't know that. And I usually just crumple up my receipts.
Yeah.
And so I get there and I was like, I see the gate and I'm thinking it's going to open and it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And then I see a little barcode scanner and again, it's all in Finnish. And I'm like, probably should pull out that thing in my pocket.
Is it out of sanitizer or is it for something else?
Anyway, it took me about 10 seconds to figure it out. But again, these little hiccups that just, we sort of take for granted the way that we smoothly move through our home environments. And to your original question about the rookie advantage of, everything's new, everything's fresh, everything takes a little bit more attention and awareness. And I think that's what keeps us on our toes and also makes it, there's a time and a place for comfort and familiarity and moving fast and efficiently. And there's a time and a place for going into new things that push you a little bit.
Yeah. And I think because it's new, we get so much more enjoyment out of figuring it out or discovering it. I remember coming home on the bus with Lily and out the window, I saw this bright red mushroom. And when we got off at that next stop and I just ran back, I was like, I found one of these like famous mushrooms. They look just like from Mario Kart, red with the white spots. They're very toxic. Don't touch them or eat them. But I was so excited to have spotted it. And when we go through the forest paths, we're walking slow. We go no phones, no headphones, and our daughter's totally fine with that. And we look for mushrooms and berries and flowers and moss and lichen. And yeah, it's just a completely different climate. And so it's really fun to explore. And we just feel so excited when we actually figure things out. So I think the next part is just like being willing to try new things.
Well, can I actually, when you said we get excited to figure things out, can I share a story from last week's sailing trip?
Yes.
Okay. So we're in Croatia and we were at this marina and something happened right before we left the marina and the outlets on the boat stopped working. But it was time for us to get going. And I was like, we'll figure it out.
It floats. You've got wind.
Yeah. So we can't charge our iPads right at the moment or something like that. Anyway, so we started going, we had sailed up a river and now we were going to go out the river. And it was quite a long river. It would take about an hour to get out the river back to open water. And as soon as we leave the dock, I realized that the autopilot doesn't work and a whole bunch of other things don't work. And for some mysterious reason, the outlets don't work. And I'm kind of trying to troubleshoot and I just have different people on the boat say, hey, it's your turn to steer the boat. Just keep us in the middle. Don't run into anybody or anything. And so they're steering while I'm going down there, looking at electrical panels, checking breakers, this and that. Can't find it and kind of messaging with the base, trying to get some information. And some of the guys on the boat are former airplane mechanics and different things like that. And they're like, hey, is there a schematic of the boat? And I'm like, I can't get into that right now. We have to get out of this river. I'm not an electrician. I'm not really good at reading schematics. But anyway, I was like, yeah, go down to the navigation desk and look inside and if, look around anyway, they're like, okay, great. And two of the guys kind of jump on it and they start saying, oh, hey, this is where the autopilot is located. Can we open up that compartment and take a look at it? I'm like, yeah, sure. So they're leading the charge on this and I'm going down and like, they're saying, can we check here? Can we check there? And I'm helping them locate and do the checking because I'm familiar with it. And I was like, okay, yes, this is the autopilot mechanism, but there's no circuit breaker. There's nothing here. And about 20 minutes later, they're like, okay, let's power cycle everything because we think we found some breakers that were tripped. And presto, the autopilot comes on.
Woo!
Big cheer because that's really important. I know that might not sound like an important function, but when you're sailing for multiple hours a day, just being able to let the boat steer itself for a while is really, really helpful. So they fix it.
Never fear. There's always someone watching where you're going.
Yes. Anyway, and then these guys kept working at it and looking at the schematic and they find there's a set of breakers in this cabin. If you lift up the stairs underneath, and I had remembered seeing them at the beginning, when they walked me through the boat, and I had forgotten that that was the breaker. Anyway, they solved it and the outlets worked again, and everyone was so happy, and we cheered and we clapped for them. And it was so fun for them.
Mhm.
One of the guys, Chris, was just like, "Oh, this was a blast. I had so much fun." And it's such a feel good. And so, they are in a new environment and something isn't going as expected, and they kind of take charge of it and troubleshoot it. And when you figure it out, you get the dopamine hit of success, and also the confidence that comes with it of like, "Oh, hey, I can figure these kinds of things out." And so ironically, people pay to go on these trips. And sometimes some things that are the most fun are when something doesn't go right. Something doesn't go as expected, and they figure it out. We figure it out. We overcome whatever it is. And that figuring it out and overcoming is actually the real fun. And if everything goes right, it's a nice time. Don't get me wrong. I always like it when things go smoothly, but there's something special about having to solve a problem. And when you succeed, that's a huge payoff.
And to succeed with a crew, because then everybody's there to
We celebrate each other's wins and efforts. And so, yeah.
It almost feels like going to an escape room or a treasure hunt or something where it's like, it would be really cool if we could figure this out, but we're not feeling the high stakes pressure of it's on us to figure this out, because we know once we get out of this river, we can call the base and they'll send someone over to solve the problem. It's not like you're going to ever be on a trip and be stuck out there. Something goes wrong and it can't be fixed. Like, the charter company will always come out and fix something.
Yeah.
But in this case, they were like, we want to play with it. And they fixed it.
And I was able to report back to the base, "Hey, we got both of these problems solved." And they're like, "Hey, good job, guys." They're proud of us too. It saves them time and effort, and we have a feel good. And later in the week, we had some really big wind come in, and we were sailing and going fast. And one of the large cushions on the bow just got caught by the wind and threw overboard. And I was like, "Okay, time for a man overboard drill." And we had to go, and it took multiple attempts. And, there was a lot of other boat traffic around, and the boat we were sailing was quite large, and everyone was kind of new to the maneuver. But when we got it, man, everyone was happy and we all celebrated. And it was because, sure, you don't want stuff to blow overboard. It's easier when it doesn't, but when it does, and then you solve the problem, figure it out, everyone's like, "Hey, we did it." And if there was ever a real emergency, we feel better prepared and capable of dealing with it. And that's fun.
Yeah.
Ironically, that's fun.
If you were having a real emergency, any number of those other boats would have jumped in as well.
Yeah.
I'm just like speaking to the safety conscious people out there.
Safety third.
Safety third. But I think you bring up a really good point about when you have a beginner mindset, you are not only willing to try new things, but you're willing to be bad at things. And maybe that's the flip side of trying new things. People get too scared to do it if they think they'll be bad. But when you're like, "I'm new here, I've never tried this before. Of course, I'm not going to be an expert at it. Of course, it's going to take multiple passes because I've never tried this before." And I think some of the things that I was bad at when I first got here, we already talked about the grocery store checkout fails. I missed stops on the bus and had to go around the entire line. Or I attempt to say things to people in Finnish and not realizing, oh, that word transforms when it's used in a sentence like this. And they're always just like,
"You're so sweet.
You're trying to speak our language."
Bless your little heart.
It does warm their heart to me that I'm actually giving it a go, And that's something that kids do also, right? Like, kids are willing to give it a go. And that is a great approach whenever you're going somewhere new. It's been really helpful for us here in Finland to say, "Oh, could you say it again for me? Could you say it a little slower? Now I'm going to repeat it back to you. Did I get it right?" Just willing to be bad at something can make it a lot more fun. You're not like, "I screwed up." You're like, "I'll have to take another pass at that." I want to talk about something that I got wrong here, which might be a terrible way to start this story, but I mentioned how much I loved going swimming in the lakes. And one of the things that I love to do is look at the nature that's all around me, and the trees and the lily pads and the ducks. And there was this one beautiful white swan, and I would always see it out in the distance. And I would I'm going to swim this direction so I can look at the swan the whole time. And I told our daughter, Lily, "Come check out this swan." And then you came with us, and I was like, "See, check out this swan." And then after a while, I wanted to get a little closer to the swan. And then I started to be kind of suspicious about this swan I'm like, is it their pet swan? Do they feed it? Why does it always stay in the same place? So one day, Eric being such a good sport, said, yeah, we can swim all the way out to this swan. It was much further than we usually swim. And we got there, and sure enough, that swan was made out of plastic. The plastic swan. They really do have swans in Finland. Like, the swan is a symbol of Finland. It's on a lot of the packages that say like made in Finland, but that swan was not real.
But it sure looked
elegant.
elegant.
I've heard of black swans and white swans, but this was just a fake plastic swan.
Different category. There's going to be some economic book in the making based on that.
Okay, let's wrap this up. If you're ready, I'd love to talk about what are some of the things that we want to take home with us. And I'm not talking about wooden kitchen utensils that we bought at the outdoor market, but what are some of the things that we want to take with us from our experience here in Finland when we go back? Like, we want to keep that. Actually, it could be stuff. Definitely wooden kitchen utensils.
We're bringing some stuff. First of all, I'm excited and hopeful that we'll come back.
Mm-mm.
And things that I really appreciate are walking in the forests, the quiet. It's so quiet, and the nature is beautiful and plentiful. Even in town where we live, it's not hard to find little paths that just wander through the woods that are all lined with pine needles, and it's just and berries.
Mm-hmm.
Even here in this apartment building, this apartment complex, you can literally walk outside and go pick berries. And so I just think the closeness to nature, and also I'm excited to come back because there will be a new set of things to figure out, but we've already figured out a lot of the other things. And so we get to kind of start at a higher level of comfort and experience. And we have more friends, we've reestablished connections with family. And so it's like we get to come back at a next level, just like anything where you make progress and then you go take a break from it. When you come back to it, you're not starting out where you were at the beginning. You're starting out at your new level. And I'm excited for that.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that. I was thinking of that yesterday. I went to church. We go to church every week. And since we're here, they've given me an assignment to work with the young people. And it's super fun. And I know next time when we come, I could just call in advance or message in advance, hey, we're going to be coming. So we can slide right into that community as well as with our family members, of course. One of the things that I have really loved is the slower pace. Part of it is not having a car, but part of it is just being here in Finland during summertime and taking the time to walk slowly through the forests. And I think I want to continue a slower pace. And also something they do here in Finland is if they don't have something to say, they don't say anything. And that has been so good for me. And to know in my mind, it's not awkward for them if I don't say anything either. And so it's very comfortable to just sit around and nobody's saying anything, but you don't feel weird about it. And it's been a good chance for me to practice not saying anything when I don't have anything to say. I'm also going to hopefully take back swimming. It's not going to be like swimming in a lake at all, but I just love being in the water. So hopefully that slower pace, not saying things when I don't need to say anything, making things from scratch, especially with berries. I want to keep that. Eric and I went on a forest walk yesterday and we sat down on a boulder and we're just looking up at the sky. I want to take this. I want to do more of this. We can just lay down in the grass almost anywhere that we go. Just be still. I ran into a friend who grew up here in Finland and she lives in the US now, but was visiting her mom. And she said, every time we come to Finland, we go home and start canceling activities for our kids and for ourselves. It's a good reminder to do fewer things and enjoy those few things even more. So yeah, I'm looking forward to holding still. Anyway, this is part of what we love about taking you sailing, taking you on these sailing trips with us, is that so many times it's an opportunity to come to a new country, to come to a new experience, a new kind of adventure, to meet some new people. And you can approach that with a beginner mindset, expecting that you're going to be encouraged, expecting that you're going to figure it out, expecting that you're not going to be the best at it on day one, and feeling like that's totally normal and acceptable. And so, yeah, I'm hopeful that as we talk about our experience being beginners again here in Finland, that it gives you the sense of what kind of mindset makes for a really, really fun trip when you come sailing with us, or whatever your next adventure might be that you have planned.
What could go right? Hey there, this is Eric. Before we wrap up, I just want to give you the sailing update. We are heading into our 2027 season. As of this moment for 2026, we do have one solo spot on our Norway trip in 2026. That's September 3 through 10th in Norway. It's going to be an epic, beautiful sail in the Lofoten Islands. And then we've also got one solo female spot on our Bahamas trip in November the 9th through the 14th. And that's going to be in the Abacos northern part of the Bahamas. So those are the only two spots that we have left in 2026. Otherwise, 2026 is sold out. If there's any trip you want to jump on, you can join the wait list. But 2027, here's what we have going on. January 25th through the 30th, we're going to be in the Virgin Islands. That trip is also sold out, but we might open up another one in that same month or February. So if you want to go sailing this winter in the Virgin Islands, you can join the wait list for that. Just ping us and we'll send you the link to join that. In the Bahamas, March 1st through 6th, we're going to be in the Bahamas. It will most likely be in the Exumas, which is the southern part of the Bahamas, sailing out of Nassau. April 5 through 10, we're going to be in Mexico. La Paz, beautiful, stunning snorkeling, sailing, one of my favorite spots. So Mexico, April 5 through 10. May 1st through 8th, we are going to be in Tahiti and Bora Bora. The plan is to do a one-way sail from an island just off of Tahiti called Raiatea. Then we're going to sail the boat to Bora Bora, which is kind of like that iconic lagoon with those bungalows out over the water. Anyway, that's May 1st through the 8th. Then that's the end of our spring season, winter and spring, and we come over here to Europe. June 5 through 12th, we will be in Italy. And July 10th through the 17th, we will be in Greece. August 7th through the 14th, we'll be in Croatia. September 4th through the 11th, we'll be back in Italy. September 18th through the 25th, we'll be in Greece. These are our shoulder season trips. And then in November, we head back to the Virgin Islands, November 1 through 6, the British Virgin Islands. And then December 6th through the 11th, we'll be back in the Bahamas. So that is the 2027 lineup, the 2 empty spots for 2026. And if you want to join us for any of these, just hit reply to any one of our emails. You can DM us or contact us through social media, and would love to hear from you and see if this might be a fit for you. Would love to welcome you aboard.
We can talk about trips all day, but it's more fun to hear from someone who's been aboard. Here's a recent guest takeaway.
I think I was most concerned that I would just not be able to grasp sailing, which is why I wanted to learn to sail, so that was what I was most worried about. And I feel very positive about it now, and I will do it again. As far as a takeaway, I think it's a lot easier to meet people that feel like family than I ever thought before. Like, it's way, way easier. And someone who's coming on one of these, if they're thinking about it, I'm going to tell them, don't hesitate at all. Do not hesitate. You will love it. And that's it.
Thank you, Chris.